Sometimes I imagine that old book pages dream when the covers close. I wonder if they remember the voices they once carried, the characters, the laughter, maybe the long forgotten thoughts, and maybe they wonder if they'll ever be read again. Every now and then, one of those book pages gets a second chance and a new adventure begins, not on a bookshelf, but inside a journal. Today, I'm turning those quiet printed pages into little hiding places, pockets for secrets, notes, memories. Old text becomes a new story. Faded words find a new meaning. And there's a new voice whispering through the old paper. Let's see what new life we can discover inside the secret lives of book pages. Hi, I'm Kathleen at Be Again Books, and I wanted to do just kind of a quick video. Actually, it might not be quick. You might want to get a cup of tea. I don't know. But I wanted to explain why I think book pages are ideal for junk journal pockets, because they already have so many of the qualities we want when we're creating things from scratch. So let me move some of these aside and we'll just talk about the book pages for a minute. I love book pages for pockets because of the natural vintage aesthetic. So you've already got the aged tones, you've got the soft paper texture, you've got printed text that instantly adds kind of a time-worn charm without extra distressing. It fits right in with the handmade style of junk journaling. So you've also got built-in visual interest. So book pages give you little text columns, they give you illustrations, you've got varied fonts, you've got these subtle background layers kind of that make each pocket unique. They're easy to coordinate. All of the neutral print blends beautifully with almost any journal theme. Book pages are also usually thin enough that you can fold them, yet they're strong enough for pockets when they're glued or backed. And finally, they're sustainable. So reusing discarded books gives forgotten pages a new purpose, and that aligns perfectly with the spirit of junk journaling. They're also, by the way, inexpensive. Not always. Some of the really old book pages are kind of pricey, but most of the time you can get them really inexpensively. The books would otherwise be thrown away. So the beginners can experiment, without worrying about wasting paper. Each page is different, so every pocket feels like kind of one of a kind. And beginners can also learn to fold and glue and layer and build confidence with composition and texture. So, in short, book pages make it simple to turn something old and ordinary into something that looks artistic and meaningful and personal, which is the perfect foundation for a journal pocket. I do have a couple of tips for selecting the best book pages for your pockets. The first thing is to check the paper strength. So if you can gently bend the book page, and if it cracks or flakes, it's too brittle. So you want to choose pages that have a little bit of flexibility. So these pages are great because they'll fold either direction without cracking. There might be, you can feel when you run your finger down whether it's gonna crack. These are pretty good. but let me show you on this one. Let's see. So this page, if I try to fold it, you can see that it starts to crack. So that's the first thing you want to do, is fold it and see if it will crack. Now, if you fold with the grain, then you have a little less of a problem than if you fold against the grain. So with this one, this is the grain of the paper is going this way. And so that fold is not cracking. But when I fold it this way against the grain, you can see that that cracks. And that's what's going to happen. It's going to tear. So you want to be sure to test the paper that you're using. This is really thin paper. So that makes it nice for some things, but not as nice for other things. But again, if you fold the paper, you can tell whether it's going to crack. That's good. Let's fold it this way. Either way, that paper is going to be fine for using. Let's check this one. Oh, I can tell already that that one's going to crack. Yep, and it did. Can you see those cracks right along there? Yeah. I will tell you that humidity in the air makes a big difference. Sometimes you can fold paper and it folds nicely without worry if there's a lot of humidity in the air. I happen to live in the desert and there's almost never any humidity where I live. But sometimes if I will breathe on the paper before I fold it, let me just show you the difference. If I just hold this in my mouth and breathe on that paper, it begins to fold without cracking. Not to say that it won't crack later when it dries out, but that's a little tip that you might use. The next thing you might want to look at is the print, the density or the size of the print. So some of the printing is dense and dark, and that might change where you want to use it or how to use it. Some print is lighter in weight and density. So you just need to kind of mind the print density and the font. Some fonts are really small, some are really big, and it's kind of fun to try to find different fonts. I really love the old-fashioned fonts, the ones that are really vintage. They just, I don't know, speak to me. This is a more modern font, and there's just a different look to it. The way the print is on the page, sometimes there's large margins, sometimes the margins are smaller. So you can also look for some subtle aging. So when you put the prints together, you can see that sometimes it's aged. Sometimes there's little warm ivory or tan tones around the edges. Sometimes there's foxing, little spots and other little marks. You should also consider the subject matter. So I tend to use just old classic books, but I do have a lot of Reader's Digest books, and so I got those for the covers, and so then I have all of these lovely papers, and some of them are really aged with the tones that I love, but the subject matter is sometimes kind of iffy. So you need to be a little careful about that. Okay, so let me demonstrate just a couple of my favorite book page pockets. They're really easy, and these styles just lend themselves really well to making pockets. So let me show you. Okay, so these are kind of some of my favorite book page pockets. This first one is just a regular patch pocket. And so that's all it is. It's a book page that's folded in half, rounded corners, and a little thumb notch at the top. And then you can decorate it further, but the basic idea is just to take a recycled book page and fold it in half to kind of make it a little more sturdy. And we're going to go ahead and glue that together. So we'll just use a glue stick and a generous amount of glue. And then we've got a nice pocket. So again, I'm going to trim off those ragged edges. I'm going to give this a little bit of a thumb notch up here at the top. And it doesn't matter, you can do upside down or whichever side you want. I'm going to put a little thumb notch there in the top. I'm going to round the bottom corners. Going to give it just a little extra ink around the edge, just to kind of define those edges. And then there's my basic patch pocket, which I can then embellish if I want. So on this one, you can do almost anything. You could do a sticker. You could do some scraps, paper scraps. Let's just try some of these paper scraps on here. Which side do I want? I think I'll have this side. So you can see that why it's sometimes nice to have different kinds of fonts and text, because then you can use scraps and kind of make a design. Different colors makes it kind of fun. This one has a different color. So we'll take a little piece of that. And, you know, you can do more. I think I'll just do that much. And I've got a little piece of napkin. And put this little piece on there, just covering up some of that. I think maybe I'll make it a little smaller so that it doesn't cover up all of the book page. I'm just going to take this little piece of napkin, put some glue down. I think I'll put another piece over here. I will do that. Yep. And then we'll put this on top right there. Okay, there's my pocket. We can let that dry. And I think that would make a really cute vintage pocket for a journal. Okay, so you've got your basic patch pocket. Now, let me show you what else you can do. If, for instance, you've got a book like this that's got several of these kind of pretty illustrations in it, you can take that page and just fold the pocket so that the illustration shows. And then again, you've got a great pocket that's just already made. You don't even have to do anything hardly with it, because that illustration is the design. Now this is a little bit bigger, and you can trim that down if you want, but you've got the same thing going. Oops, wrong one. That's the tab punch, and I want the rounder. I should let that glue dry, because then it would clip easier, but I don't think I got that thumb notch quite in the middle, but I can fix that later. But there we go. I like that. If I come over here to my little, so over here I have this little tray with some quick embellishments. If I wanted, I could put something like this on there. And let me get my tape, because this is my very best tip for using these stickers that are vellum that you can't get off the backing. So I will just kind of put this over here to the side, as if that's the greenery growing against that building. Just fold that behind. Yeah, I like that pocket. So, basic patch pocket, that's the first one. Here's the second one. Let's use this dictionary. So I'll just take one of those pages, and what we're going to do is just fold it over. We're going to make like a double side pocket. Yeah, it's as simple as that. And depending on the size of your journal, this fits like a Reader's Digest size. This is obviously a larger one, but if we round the corners, then that can go up against the side of the page. And all we have to do is, if we want distress, before we glue it down. So I make this kind of pocket a lot. So we glue it down, and then that goes on the journal page, and it's a pocket and a pocket. So a double pocket. And then of course you can embellish it however you want again. So a strip, or as I've done on this one, I've done some more pieces. Just kind of making, you know, a design down the side. With pieces and strips, kind of like a masterboard. I need some more of that dark brown paper. There we go. Now let's put a strip of washi. And you could use a scrap, just another scrap of paper. But washi tape's pretty easy. There you go. So that's the side pocket, and so easy to make and really effective, I think, to use in a journal. So we've got patch pockets, we've got a side pocket, and of course we've got a corner pocket, and those are easy too. And this is just a masterboard, so you can see that there's just all kinds of scraps going every which way. And I've used just a little piece of blank and a stamp. So let's make that one quick. This is a good one to make if you've got a book page that's, you know, just a little bit fragile and is already breaking up. Yeah, then you can just use a bunch of little scraps and create a sturdier pocket. And you want to put things going in different directions. Of course, we're going to cut this, so you don't have to do the whole thing if you don't want. I think I want some things kind of going diagonal. Use a little bit of this text so this is a little more dense, remember, and dark, so that's going to kind of change things. So give it just a little bit of a different look. And I think we need, let's do another this darker bit. Okay, now I'm going to cut that off, trim it down, and make a pocket. Okay, there we go. Let's round this. Nope, I keep reaching for that one. Let's round this one. Again, I should let that glue dry and then I won't have that trouble. So if you've been making journals for some time, this will seem really easy. And it is. But that's okay. So now, that's very neutral. It can go into any journal I make, and I can decorate it any number of ways. But as I say, one of the things I like to do is take one of the pages with a wide margin and then just use an ink pad, and I'll just make a little label that can kind of be a decoration. So we'll do that. Then I just think that I'll take my watercolors and a little brush, just put a little water on the brush, and I think we'll make that butterfly this pretty iridescent. Just gonna do a simple wash. It just kind of puts a little color behind that butterfly. What do we want? Maybe this a little darker. Take some of that up. Yeah, there we go. You can just use cheap watercolors. Don't have to have expensive ones. And then I will cut this down. Going to just chop those corners. Then put that there on the pocket. there's another really nice vintage pocket for my journals. So these corner pockets are simple and can be decorated any number of ways. Okay, the last favorite book pocket that I have are just these simple kind of fold up pockets. And again, they're just easy to make. You want a page that maybe is a little bit sturdy. Let me see if I can find one. Let's see how this one folds. Oh, that one cracks. Sad. That would be the perfect size. Okay, we'll just go with this one again. So you just bring it up. Leave that top a bit. Let's cut a little thumb notch right there. And you can trim off these edges, but I kind of like them. I think that gives just a little bit of character, you know, to the pocket. It just reminds me that I'm using something that is scrappy, not new. Then I'm just going to glue these sides down. So that's as simple as that is, right? Put the lid back on there. Give these edges a little definition. And then again, this is just a second of the same kind of pocket, only I've made this one into a tag, okay? And I've just done a little bit more of the kind of scrappy. I just look for different colors, different text types. Different fonts, different sizes of text. And then just make it, you know, all kinds of different directions and let's get some of this tiny text in there. That would be fun. And let's do another little strip of music. And let's see. So in my little, I've got a couple of, it would be fun to just put a cluster on there. That one is a little big. We could just do, yeah, just a sticker. She's a little big. You could just use some other, I don't know, kinds of things. Yeah. Yeah, kind of like that. do that. So this is just a little a ration stamp. I'll put kind of right there. I learned this tape trick on YouTube. Somebody who helped me learn that, and I really appreciate it. I don't know who it was, but how did I have that? I don't want to cover up all of that music there. Yeah, then this little Tim Holtz guy. Let's put him on there. Okay, so there's that, and if we made another one, you could do it like this and make a little floating pocket that would clip on the side of the page and have room. Just like that, another chapter begins. Not for the book, but for its pages. What was once a line of printed text is now a place, you know, to tuck a note, photograph, or a secret thought. So these pages have stepped out of their old stories and into our stories, you know, carrying whispers of the history, but inside something that's handmade and new. I love thinking that somewhere these forgotten pages are smiling a little in the journals that I've put them in, finally part of another adventure, because, you know, nothing truly ends when we choose to create. Not paper, not story, not even time, really. Thank you for joining me today. Until next time, I hope your journals are filled with quiet surprises and the secret lives of recycled book pages. Thanks for being with me. I'll see you again.